Welcome to Making Mavericks. Tonight we have Alex, the founder of Vermont Marshmallow Company. Thank you so much for being here this evening.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're really excited. So, when we kicked this series off, Sam Roach-Gerber from VSET asked me this question, and I thought it was a good way to also kick it off with you.
Okay.
So, the question is, can you describe and talk about young Alex?
Ooh.
What was she like?
That's a good one. I should have seen this coming because I watched that. I should have prepared. Young Alex was really, really quiet. All of my report cards are like, we know that Alex is like smart and kind and all this stuff, but we've never heard her voice before. So I was really, really quiet. I was really imaginative. There it is.
Yeah, I think that's it.
I played pretend more than maybe anything else, and I have a distinct memory of like hitting 7th grade, and my main like pretend friend told me we couldn't play anymore because we were too old, and like I'm still reeling a little bit. But yeah, I remember finding an old report card from like 1st grade or something, and it was like, Alex loves pretending that she's working in a kitchen, like playing pretend and like pretending that she's cooking, and being, she's just like, she usually leads the charge on like the unicorn game or the rabbit game or something. So yeah, I don't know. I think I was very introverted. I still am introverted, but I guess the thing that's kind of changed is I went from like shy. I don't identify as shy anymore, but I was a very shy kid.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like those like imaginative and shy are the big young Alex things.
Okay. What would young Alex say about you today? Like how, because you're saying you don't identify as shy. So how do you feel like what transformed that, or breaking out of the shell a little bit, I guess?
Young Alex would be really confused about what was going on right now. I mean, I think there's, different phases in life, different versions of me in the past that would look at now and have a very different opinion or thought about it, but all of them would be surprised and a little bit confused how we got here. I mean, this version of Alex is still kind of surprised and confused how we got here. But I guess transitioning from shy to kind of who I am now, I think it was kind of combination of just getting a lot more comfortable with who I am and a lot more confident just in myself and being comfortable not, trying to be something that I wasn't anymore. Not trying to fit any mold besides the one that I already exist in. And also just forcing myself out of it. I guess it was kind of like exposure therapy. And a lot of it happened through owning this business. I still kind of identified as like quiet and shy up until Vermont Marshmallow Company. But then suddenly I was the face of a business. And I think I kind of have a Vermont Marshmallow Company persona, which is absolutely authentically me. It's just one very specific part of me that I choose to share with everyone. And there's a million other parts that I keep to myself, but kind of leaning really hard into like, okay, this is the Alex that I'm going to share with everyone, and having kind of the safety of knowing that not everyone gets access to all of me kind of helped make it all feel really easy.
Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, because I think that most people who have seen you and know you from your business and as it's grown wouldn't describe you as shy. So I think that's really interesting to hear how the business in a way kind of like propelled you forward. So with that, talking about today, where are you? Who are you today? So what is the Vermont Marshmallow Company?
So I'm the CEO and founder of the Vermont Marshmallow Company. We are a small business that makes small batch, boldly flavored, pillowy as heck marshmallows. I don't know. Who are we? We've changed so much this year. This year, in February, we decided that we were going to move from a shared kitchen to our own kind of kitchen and fulfillment space. So the year started with finding and negotiating a new space. that transitioned into moving into the new space, investing in the new space, adjusting to the new space, which led into the rebranding era. Earlier this year, we were Nomadic Kitchen, and now we're the Vermont Marshmallow Company. That was its whole big beast. And so this year has almost felt like a brand new year one for the business. Energetically, it's felt very, very similar to like being in that absolute startup mode, because we were just pressing reset on so many different areas of the business and like learning who are we if suddenly all of these things that were once true are now not. Who are we if we're not in a shared space? Who are we if our the space that we have access to isn't limited by, you know, square footage or time? Who are we if we're no longer a nomadic kitchen? And so there was a lot of soul searching this year, and I think we've come out the other side of it in a place that feels really, really true. And I think one of my favorite things about the rebrand, and one of like the biggest validation moments I had, was the first farmers market that I worked after launching the rebrand. This customer came up to me, and she's a regular. She's there weekly, but like if she's there every 2 weeks, it's like, where were you last week? Like, what's up? And she was like, congratulations on the rebrand. Like, this is so amazing. So happy for you. What was your old brand name? And I was like,
interesting.
That's all I needed.
Yeah, wow.
That's all I needed, that to know that like a regular already kind of forgot who we once were. Really kind of validated the decision, and also validated like the whole impetus behind the rebrand was like, this is about stepping into who we actually are. And so that's been the theme of this year. And yeah, it's feeling really good and really crazy. It's all paying off very beautifully.
Yeah, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember you, when you were going through this rebrand, was it your dad who already had the domain name of Vermont Marshmallow Company?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, he had it from I guess the moment that I said like, hey, I'm starting a marshmallow company and I'm calling it Nomadic Kitchen. And the first question was, why? Like, I respect you, but also why?
Yeah.
And he kind of went on his own little fatherly duties and just reserved the URL Vermont Marshmallow in a bunch of different versions, just in case. And so 4.5 years later, I finally was like, hey, I'll take that URL. Thank you.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good dad.
Yeah, he's got my back.
So with this rebrand, I think, so 4.5 years in,
Yeah.
right? Now, what would you say was one of the biggest challenges? So I think that a lot of people, you know, if they have launched a company recently, it's that balance of like, okay, maybe we've learned some things that we want to change, or we want to pivot, or, you know, maybe we need to reiterate here or there. What led you, like, because you're saying it's who you are, but what led you to decide, okay, this is a time to rebrand? And then what was that process like?
Timing wise, it was in part because of the move. Like I said, the move kind of spurred a bit of like an identity crisis, and it was just an opportunity to start asking, you know, these questions of ourselves. And it just felt like, if we're gonna be kind of shaking things up from the ground level in that way, let's just do it all at once. You know, the reason that we got the new kitchen was to be able to scale, and it just felt like, all right, this name is going to help us do that too. So it's all kind of part of the same strategy to grow easily. And I want this space to make sense for us right off the bat. And so that's kind of the why behind it, as far as timing goes. But then beyond that, I mean, there are so many reasons. I remember telling people about it at first, and I had like a whole list. I was like, here's how I'm justifying this massive decision, so you can't poke any holes in it. But by the time I got to the bottom of the list, everyone was like, you didn't have to tell me any of that. This was such an obvious choice. We were all kind of waiting for you to be the Vermont Marshmallow Company already. But I mean, the reasons really range from like SEO, like we want to make sense online. When people are Googling like gourmet marshmallows, they're not Googling nomadic kitchen.
Sure.
We want to be able to we want people to be able to find us more easily. We want people to be able to remember our name more easily. And also, just as the business was growing, I think I started realizing that the name Nomadic Kitchen was very much about Alexx. It was about me And as the business was growing and I've started, giving people so much more responsibility and the business got bigger than me, it got a lot harder to justify the name because, it was like other people out there selling for me. And it was like, oh, it's this name because the owner, this, that, this, that. And it was like, those things aren't even true about me anymore. So it just, one of the kind of tenets I hold as a business owner is to not hold too tightly to anything that doesn't matter that much. Like, there are a lot of like values that I will never budge on, but outside of those values, I like to stay really agile. I see myself, if I like visualize myself owning my business, it's always on the balls of my feet. I want to be able to like quickly kind of move in any direction. And it just got to the point where the only person holding on to the name Nomadic Kitchen was me. And it was just time to be agile about it. And so we flipped. And honestly, I hardly remember not being the Vermont Marshmallow Company anymore
that's
either.
interesting.
But I mean, there were a lot of challenges. I have like a literal 20-page document of like, here's everything that I need to communicate and all the people I need to communicate it to. And I'm still struggling with the IRS a little bit. It's like, oh, they told me it would take 6
IRS
weeks.
is so easy to deal with, right?
Oh, yeah, no, they said 6 weeks and it's been 12 now. So
wow.
still like, there's like logistical issues and stuff. But for the most part, it seems like we kind of thought of everything. And I think that if you're making a big change in your business, one, it's about your own conviction in that change. Like if you trust yourself and your audience trusts you, then it's just going to come down to how you communicate it to them. And then it's just, about telling the story clearly and getting people on board. But
yeah. Well, I think so far from the outside, it seems like you've done it very well.
Thank you.
So congrats on the rebrand. Yeah, I'm also someone who is a big fan of the company before, obviously, but I think, I totally agree. It makes sense. So I have a lot of questions regarding the growth of the business and, going from a shared space, like you said, in the kitchen to a big kitchen. But before we get too far into that, now that we know, who you are today, what inspired you to even start this, big journey in this business?
I mean, I always say that my background is as a pastry chef and a marshmallow kid. But with that said, I never saw this coming. Yeah. I didn't even see myself as an entrepreneur until the day that I became one. And so in a lot of ways, the business took me by surprise. And in a lot of ways, it was like the perfect bow on top of a bunch of loose threads that I'd created in my life. I was a trained pastry chef. I had experience in marketing. I had my MBA. There were all these things that I was like, what the hell am I going to do with all of these? I guess I'm just going to be someone who has a new job every 2 years and that'll just be my life and it's fine. And then I made marshmallows with my mom, December 2018. And I had made them before, but I just saw them through the lens of everything I had done for the first time ever. I was like, oh, wait, this is like a really interesting vehicle for culinary creativity. This is kind of an interesting thing to market to people. This thing that people think they know so well, but can be kind of a completely new experience when it's made the way that we make it. From a MBA perspective, I was like, oh, I wonder what shipping would be like. Oh, I wonder what e-commerce would be like. So it happened unexpectedly and perfectly. But I had no plans for it until the moment it was happening.
Yeah, and I think why I've loved talking to you since we launched Local Maverick, trying to focus on the discovery aspect and the customer acquisition tool, coming from a marketing background, how do you think that served you from trying to build this company? And again, I think most people would agree that have seen this company and you would agree that you are really good at building a brand, right? You have a strong brand, regardless of the name, right? Sure. It's like that is Alexx, and then that is the marshmallow that is coming from, whether it's Nomadic Kitchen, but now the Vermont Marshmallow Company. Yeah. So do you think that that was an important part, the background in marketing, or?
Yeah, I would say yes. Not necessarily like the classes I took or the training that I had, but maybe just like the muscle that I kind of developed just in working in marketing and having that kind of mindset, because a lot of the marketing that I did kind of in the corporate world is not necessarily how I'm doing marketing now.
Sure.
But I mean, I'm only just now thinking about this, but I think that one of the reasons that the name change was so smooth is because like the name changed, but the brand didn't.
Yeah.
Everything's the same except the name. And our label looks a hell of a lot better because it's not the thing that I designed in Photoshop 5.5 years ago, the night that I taught myself Photoshop. Like,
Yep.
we have professionals now. But I do think that marketing is kind of at the cornerstone of my business, in part because it's one of the areas that I like the most. So I like to spend a lot of time there. But I mean, at the end of the day, like there's marketing, and then there's relationship building, and then there's just being a visible brand. And I think that you can get really locked into being like, okay, marketing looks like X. But I think a lot of the time for me, it looks like Y or Z. And I'm like using traditional formats like social media, or I highly recommend everybody have an email list. Like that's our biggest kind of, as far as e-commerce goes, majority of our revenue comes through our email list. So email is not dead, and really important. But just kind of like, looking at the traditional elements of marketing and then funneling them through who you are is, I think, where things get really compelling and really interesting and just resonant with people, because you're not just getting kind of the same thing over and over. You're actually kind of like, marketing just becomes like, oh, I'm learning to understand this person, this business owner, or this business more. And it's more like getting to know someone than like, hey, 2-for-1 special kind of energy.
Yeah. No, and again, I think you've done a great job with that, and people feel like they have that connection with you. And
yeah, which is interesting. And I'm like, as we grow, that gets more and more interesting. And I'm kind of figuring out how I have to set boundaries, and parasocial relationships are a very interesting thing. And
yeah, so to kind of follow up on that, as you're growing, and I think that, again, just having these conversations, I've been a little bit privy to the growth that you've had, and it's been pretty remarkable over these past few years. But with growth comes challenges, and with growth comes the need for a team. Yeah. So as you're talking about kind of setting these boundaries and trying to navigate, okay, it's not only you, right? This brand is bigger than you, right? Or that's how you're trying to portray it, right? So how have you gone about building a team, and what has that been, and trying to let go, again, like you said, trying to be agile, and how has that experience been, and where are you with a team at this point?
I have a team of a team of 4. So there's 5 of us total. 1 is full-time. 1 is basically full-time, depends on the week a little bit. And then 2 of them are probably going to be full-time within the next couple months.
Wow.
So having a team is the best thing in the world. It opens, I mean, just like any element of growth, it opens up its own level of kind of challenges and, new ways that you have to kind of rise to the occasion, and new things that you get to learn about yourself. Managing is something that not every founder is necessarily suited for. And I've worked for startups in the past where it was like, you're a founder, not a manager. And so I've always really tried to keep that in mind as I kind of function in both roles now. But I really love the management side of it. But I think that as you're growing a team, the really important thing, and a mistake that I see a lot of people make, is that like people will hire more versions of themselves as opposed to people who are complementary. And it's like, I know what my strengths and weaknesses are, and I need to hire for my weaknesses. I know what my likes and dislikes are. I need to hire for my dislikes, because it has baffled me. Like, just the number of people who love the things that I hate and are like, I expect people to be wonderful at the things that I'm bad at. But still hard for me to get my head around people who love things that I hate. But it's
Mm,
like, those are the people that I'm looking for. Those are the people that I have.
interesting.
Yeah, it's
Can you give an example of if,
yes. Well, we were talking earlier about astrology, and
yeah.
I was saying I have two Virgos on my team because
Mm,
I need Virgos in my life. And for
yes.
anyone who doesn't know what that means, I am really, really good at the vision. I'm really good at strategy. I'm really good at marketing. I'm really good at big, sweeping ideas, decisions, and kind of making sure everyone is set up for success. I'm not great at creating the systems to make that all happen.
Ah,
So I have two people on my team who are really, really excellent at kind of the minutia, the nitty gritty, the detail work, which makes me want to die, but it makes them feel alive.
yeah.
And so that is perfect for me. And then, thinking about the different positions, my sales team, super, super extroverted. Right now, like they go to markets and afterwards they're energized. They want to go out and do more. After I work a market, I love working markets. I love interacting with my customers. But after a market, I have to go take a nap for 3 hours.
Yeah.
So really, I think when it comes to hiring, it's about, balancing yourself out as opposed to like, oh my gosh, you're just like me. And like, I love my team and like we all overlap. And like, there's people in the audience right now who it's like, I'm friends with to this day who used to work for me and stuff because there's definitely like value overlap is really, really important. But then skill set, I don't want any overlap at all. And so it's the best decision that I've ever made for my business, hiring.
And I think everyone, right, in the year of 2023 has been talking about the challenge of hiring, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people are talking about labor shortage or just this big kind of shift in how we work and how we operate. So what has been your strategy or experience? What are your thoughts on this idea? Because you have this incredible team. So, is there a secret? How did you do it?
How does she do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that watching that unfold the past few years has been really interesting just because it feels like I have this sacred microcosm where it's not happening. And I'm like, don't look it in the eyes. Like, oh my gosh, like what if, so it's crazy. But I think there's a few reasons why the Vermont Marshmallow Company hasn't experienced that. One being the way that I hire, and this actually does kind of come back to marketing. Anyone who follows my business knows that we're really, really transparent online. Like following our social media, you get a pretty good idea of what it's like to kind of be part of the company.
Yeah.
And every single person that I've hired has been an Instagram follower first.
Oh, interesting.
They've all already been in the kind of Vermont marshmallow world, either as customers, visit at markets, just watch the stories online and stuff. So there's marketing for, sales, but a kind of surprise offshoot of the way that I choose to show up is that I also am kind of marketing to future employees. And so I think that right out the gate, kind of the relationships that I already have with people before they even come in, just creates this like closeness that is great.
Yeah.
But then also I'm really, really conscious of people's time and what they give me. And I am 100% aware that I could do none of what we've done without my team. They're the only reason that I can think at the level that I'm thinking at and kind of lead us towards the growth that we've experienced is because they've got my back and they're taking care of, the minutia that used to eat up all my time or, the sales that I like doing, but it's not my zone of genius. And so I really work really hard to make sure that they are deeply taken care of. And that looks like, everybody works exactly how much they want to work. My goal is that the full-time job that my employees have right now is 30 to 32 hours a week. I don't want anyone working 40 hours a week. I want people to have their time and their lives. Like, this is their job. It's just marshmallows. it's great marshmallows and I believe in them and they're wonderful and we're all so passionate about them. But at the end of the day, it's not the most important part of their lives. It's not their baby, it's mine. So they have a lot of kind of flexibility there. I pay really well, and I am only paying better every year. And at the end of the year, I do profit sharing, and we've been profitable since year one. And so they're getting really fat checks at the end of every year as well.
That's always helpful.
Yeah.
It's always nice.
I mean, it's like I care about money.
Yeah.
You know, I recognize that 98% of the reason that you have a job is to make money. And I'm so grateful that people love working for me for more reasons than that. But me as an employer, I'm like, I'm looking at your quality of life above all. And so if I can help provide for that, I'm going to. And so starting next year, we're really excited. Going to implement a retirement plan because I care about their presence and their futures. And working out covering health insurance premiums as well in some capacity. But, you know, we have extra money right now. And so that's always going to kind of go to them first. And so, you know, I would love to ask them that question too. You know, it's like, why do you stay? And maybe I will in the next one-on-ones, but
we'll have a after that question, you know, after Alex.
Cut to...
yeah. Then we'll go to that, and then but yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the simple way of putting it is that we're people over profit, but it turns out that that's a really profitable way to run a business, and that only serves the people. So
yeah, so I think there are a lot of different opinions in the business world of this idea of like people over profit, or, you know, profit over people, or money over community. So I think that's really interesting insight, and it's a really great example to use where, like you just said at the end there, you can run a profitable business.
It's so compatible.
But still be able to actually provide a good quality of life. It doesn't, even if obviously money is a big component of it, in the ethos of what you're doing, it's also about, you know, building that community, even if it's within your own business and company, which is really amazing. So congrats on that.
Thanks. It's probably the part that I'm most proud of.
Yeah, I think that, you should be extremely proud of that. So what has, as you're hitting all this growth, what have been a few things that have surprised you? Like, what have been the biggest surprises? I guess if there were a few when you first started, like the example I always use is like, oh, you have to pay taxes every quarter, not every year. Like, whoops. To, you know, now with this expansion of the team. So yeah, what are some of the big surprises you ran into?
Oh my gosh. Like it all feels blurry. Like so much has happened. I've been surprised so many times now that I almost don't feel surprised anymore. I'm surprised at how long the IRS takes to process stuff, even though I shouldn't be surprised by that. I know, but like I'm genuinely surprised that it takes so long. So if you have to work with IRS, plan 6 months. Give them 6 months. I think one of the biggest surprises has been how easy it is to let stuff go in the business. I think a lot of, I mean, you know, we've talked a lot about having a staff and hiring, but I think for a lot of business owners, it's the scariest part, and it's the part that a lot of people wait too long to do. But I found, I mean, way back from when I hired my first employee, it was so scary, and it was really, it was scary. I was like, this is either going to be the best or worst decision I've ever made. It's like letting someone behind the curtains almost, because, you know, when you're a startup, it's like, hey, this is how I do things. It's not cute, but it works. And so inviting people into that level of kind of vulnerability is really scary. But the moment that I kind of welcomed people in, I was like, oh my God, take more.
Yeah.
Yes, take this from me, because it really just, you know, I go in and out, and, you know, I was having a conversation a little bit earlier with a fellow business owner who's in the audience, Cards by Cato, who was
Great business.
she was my first ever employee, and she makes incredible wildflower cards now, and it's so fun watching her business growth. But we were talking about how it's so strange as a business owner. It's like every time you level up, you look around and you're like, oh my gosh, everything that was hard is now easy. But I've unlocked a whole new level of hard. And so I think another big surprise for me is how every level kind of feels exactly the same. I look around and like, I don't know, like there's so many things that are so much easier and I have so much more balance in my life and so much harmony, but it's like every level just becomes the new baseline. And so you're looking around and it kind of looks the same all the time. And I always have to kind of remind myself to like look backwards and be like, oh no, you're actually, 10 steps ahead of where you were. You're just used to it now. So it looks the same, but it's not. Yeah. But I think I'm often surprised by how, it doesn't feel like we're as big a business as we are now. I don't know what that means anymore.
Sure.
I don't know when it feels different.
Yeah.
I think I always thought that maybe there would be like a financial milestone or something, and there have been plenty, but they all feel the same. So that's been a surprise.
That is interesting, right? Because I feel like most people would think that even if there's maybe not that specific milestone, as you grow, there would be, you're like waiting for something
I
to
don't know
not
what I'm
click
waiting
necessarily,
for
but
I'm like, I don't know if there's like a finish line, I guess. And I don't know. I guess there's some soul searching to do there.
Well, so what to you, what do you think the future holds? I mean, what does the Vermont Marshmallow Company look like in 1 year from now? And then have you thought about then what does it look like in 5 years from now?
Yeah, no. I mean, in some ways, yes, but this year I've been so present. Usually I kind of have like an idea of kind of what's next, but we just took on way too much this year. I had last week I was like sitting at a counter and my boyfriend was making dinner for me and he was like, what are you thinking about right now? And I was like, I think I've been tired since February.
Oh, wow.
We did too much this year. It was all very, very worth it, but it was just like, ooh, one big thing after the other. So I've almost been a little bit too kind of sunk into 2023 to think about what's really next. There's a potential collaboration in the works that I can't talk about.
Oh.
So that's very exciting.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, like
you
always know when you can't talk about
wow.
it, you know it might be a doozy. I'm excited to kind of lean further into my team and their strengths and their interests. There's a whole cannabis market that's really, really interesting that I'm personally not invested in at all, but some of my staff are. And so, maybe there's something there, and just kind of looking around at the kind of untapped potential around me and being like, hey, do you want to do something with that? And if you do, let's do that. Because I'm a little tired. And I would love to kind of, in the year to come, lead from behind a little bit more. I've been very kind of out in front leading the charge this year. And I think 2024, I just kind of want to like lean back, support my team, and write a cookbook kind of thing.
That's awesome. A cookbook that would only be
it's a
marshmallow recipes.
Well, because one of the fun things that we did this year ahead of the rebrand was worked with a consumer insights firm to actually learn anything about our audience.
Oh, wow.
Because, you have your suspicions about who are your customers, but sometimes there are surprises. So we got like actual data. And so I learned a lot about our customers. And one of their primary like desires is, I would love more ideas for what to do with the marshmallows.
Oh,
and I was like, cool, I'm going to write a marshmallow cookbook. So here's everything that you can do with the marshmallows. So that would be
very cool.
Really fun.
Yeah.
Really fun. And like a speed that I think I need. Just get back in the kitchen, test some recipes, and take some really pretty pictures.
Who doesn't love pretty pictures, especially of marshmallows? Well, I think you've alluded to it a bit, but with the idea of you being tired, how do you avoid burnout?
Yeah.
Because I think that's, every founder, entrepreneur, business person in general goes through that cycle at some point. And I think you're talking about your team and trying to keep it manageable with 32 hours a week. But is that something you're able to abide by? Or, how do you not get burnt out when you're doing so much?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that really helped me earlier this year is I actually started tracking my own hours. Because I think that they can get away from you really, really easily. And, suddenly it's like, wow, it's Saturday and I'm working and I don't actually know how much I worked this week. So I started clocking in and out just for my own sense of how much I'm actually giving my company. And this year was tough. As a rule, I try to keep it to 32 hours or less. And there have been times that I've been more successful and times they've been less. This year has been less. But, I mean, there was a stretch in there kind of early summer that I was doing 20-hour weeks. And it was great.
Yeah,
and so I was like, okay, it's possible. I have the data that it's possible. And it also kind of forced me to be more efficient with my time. Because if you're not tracking, it can just go on and on and on. And there's no clock out time for a business owner. Right. So if you say, okay, I'm working 6 hours a day and I have a hard stop, in the same way that my employees have hard stops, and I respect that, I try to extend that to myself as well and kind of making myself an employee of my business in a lot of ways helps a lot. Having, the team to hold me accountable to that as well, super, super helpful. And I don't know, it's hard. It's hard, and I think that even with the best of intentions, it's gonna go in and out.
Yeah.
And it's just about catching yourself when you're out. And one of my big things is like, I'm willing to push really hard. I like that sometimes. This year has been nuts and really fun. It's been fun to feel like a first year entrepreneur again and like learning my business from the ground up and just really leaning into the growth because, we had the kitchen, so let's do it kind of thing. But my whole thing is like, I need to make sure that when I am in those hard push eras, that I'm not making it the default and I'm not making it the culture of the business. It's a decision that I'm making that does have an end point. And so long as I know that there's an end point, then I'm like, all right, then I feel comfortable kind of committing to this crazy.
Yeah.
Wacky is the word that I use a lot of the time. But if I see no end in sight for that kind of energy, then I stop myself. I journal. I, work really hard to remember what's actually important to me, what business I'm trying to build here, and also I always remember people that I've worked for in the past and what it feels like to work for different kinds of people. And like the energy of the person in charge is going to impact everyone. And so, whether it's for me or the people around me, what do I want to be? What do I want that experience to be? And so just holding that in kind of the North Star position when I do feel myself edging towards the burnout.
Yeah, and I think that's really great. And I think a lot of it, to me, sounds like it's coming to balance and then accountability. And I think it's really easy, taking myself for example of not putting in those boundaries or what I've said before.
Boundaries. Ryan, you're the worst at boundaries.
Hey, this is not about me, okay? This is about the Vermont Marshmallow Company.
No, I thought you said this was a conversation.
But no, I think so many people, yeah, it's true because without those, and what I said recently is like putting up, using a silly example of like bowling, right?
I love bowling.
Yeah. I was about to say who doesn't, but I feel like actually a lot of people don't.
Nobody wants to go bowling with me.
Yeah, I'll go bowling with you.
Perfect.
I love bowling.
When are you not working?
Well, I'm going to set some boundaries.
Nice.
I'm not working right now. And cut. No. So I think that because a lot of time when you're starting a business, what I was saying, right? You're just throwing the ball down the lane and you're like, well, I don't know what's going to happen. but putting those guardrails in place so you're not
Yeah,
just
oh, I love
throwing it into
that.
the gutter constantly,
Bowling is
which
way more fun with, what are they called? Bumpers.
bumpers. Yeah.
Yeah, you need business bumpers.
Yeah, so I think
I'm
that
obsessed.
it is really important because it is so hard because you're so passionate, right? It's your baby. But if you are totally burnt out and you don't have that balance, right? Then I mean you can't do anything. You can't build your business if
Yeah,
you
you
literally
stop
can't
being
think.
useful.
Yeah.
And you fall out of love with it. Like,
Yeah. It becomes a chore.
I want to keep loving this, so I need to keep it kind of within those bounds of something lovable.
Yeah. So I think that's a really important thing for people to hear. Again, it goes beyond, I think, like founders or whatever entrepreneur even means. But just, yeah, balance in life. Because then, like you said, having that North Star, that also feeds into your employees and your team of making sure that they set those boundaries. And then that connects back into community, right? And then if everyone's feeling like they can set those safe and comfortable boundaries. So one of the last questions is community. Like what does that mean to you, and how important is the community to your business, right? Would you consider yourself as having a community business?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the community is really important. I mean, it's interesting, like, so much of this business was built during the pandemic. You know, I launched officially, like, I incorporated as a business April 2019. So I kind of had a year of non-pandemic business.
Yep.
And having this throughout the pandemic, I just, you know, so many people were just on social media. There was nothing really else to do. And I created just all of these little micro relationships with people, you know, and whether they were just interested in a business getting built or the marshmallows themselves, like, people were just invested in a way that made me want to show up for them. I was like, oh, you care, so let me do this for you. Like, I don't know if I had, like, the individual drive enough to, like, make this happen. Like I said, like, I never saw myself as an entrepreneur. I never saw myself going into business. I didn't see myself as, like, having that business gene. But right out the gate, the business was just so clearly resonating with people on a really, like, almost intimate level. And it felt like creating, like, a whole bunch of tiny friendships with people. And it was like, oh, well, I don't know if I want to do this just for myself, but I do want to do it for everyone. And it's like that gives me so much energy to know, like, oh, this is bringing you joy. This is, like, is surprising you. This is, you know, giving you a moment in your day of, like, pause and appreciation. And, like, I like to think of it as magic. Yeah, I want to create that in the world. So I think without that kind of back and forth and that feedback and that relationship that I have with everyone who supports the Vermont Marshmallow Company, yeah, I wouldn't have the drive. But creating that in the world is everything to me.
That's beautiful. That's amazing. I feel like we just need to wrap it up on that. No, so I want to finish off with, what can we do to help your business, right? Or what can we do for you? Like, if there's anything. So first, I would say, if you have not had Alex's amazing, well, I should say Alexx and her team, right?
Alexx and Co.
Alexx and Co., the Vermont Marshmallow Company. Here it is. Ooh, I've been a huge fan of this business, of you, of the marshmallows, and I've used it as an example. Like, everything that we're doing, I'm always like, oh, like, I don't like marshmallows. And everyone's like, why are you starting with that for a marshmallow company? But they are absolutely incredible. So what can we do for you?
Well, this is our wackiest time of year. We do about 50% of all of our business in the last quarter. Right now, it's looking like we're doing about 30% of the entire year in about 3 weeks.
Wow.
So that rules. Don't message me about anything besides the holidays right now, because I will ignore you. You can support us right now by supporting our retail partners. We expanded our wholesale channel really dramatically this year because I have someone managing the entire thing. And so we grew from 50 stores to 109.
Wow.
Just so exciting. And it also means that you can get the marshmallows a lot of places right
Yeah.
now. And we currently have over 1,000 e-commerce orders in our holiday queue. So if you want
That's a lot.
marshmallows,
That's a lot of marshmallows.
support our retail partners or come to our events. We can save the e-commerce for people who are not in state. Yeah, I don't know. How can you help us?
Well, then I guess a quick follow-up to that
Yeah.
is, so how do you balance, or how many, how has it been, like events versus wholesale versus online? Because now you can get your marshmallows in a lot of different places,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah, we're really excited that all 3 channels were over 6 figures this year.
Wow.
So that
amazing.
crazy. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot. And there was a reason that we kind of pumped the brakes on wholesale for a really long time. And it was always because inventory was our issue. Marshmallows take 24 hours to make. They're a really laborious process. And when you're doing a wholesale channel, you're sending out way more for way less. And so I always prioritize kind of direct to consumer because it's a lot easier to manage inventory that way and it's a higher profit margin. So I was getting the cash flow as a young business. Even now, as we have our own kitchen, someone completely managing the wholesale channel, it still took us 3.5 full weeks to stock all of our holiday wholesale orders. And it's going to take us 3.5 whole weeks to fulfill all of our e-commerce orders. So I think that's kind of going back to like the sense of like sometimes you look around and it all just feels the same because you're scaling the kind of output at the same time that you're scaling the demand. So like the demand is just matching our systems kind of every step of the way, which is such a gift. It's so incredible, but it's also just like, okay, when are we going to catch up?
So people can be patient.
Yeah, I like that. Be patient, be kind, show up to local markets and kind of, do your best to shop local first. These are your neighbors and your friends and people just like you who are all just, looking to pay rent and take care of their families. And, I feel like making money can be like a little taboo thing, but it's like, I'm so proud of it. I'm so proud to make money because I know exactly where it's going. I know that it's going to something really good, which is like taking care of really good people. And so, whether you're supporting our small business or any, just know that like that's what you're doing is like when you support a small business, you're taking care of real people. And so do that.
Always support local. Yeah. We kind of like local around here.
Nah, you don't say.
Kind of like a local kind of team. Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you again. And we'll finish off by, I know it's hard to choose one, but is there a Vermont business? It can be Burlington, Vermont, anywhere in this area. Is there one particular business, or I'll even give you 2, that you're really loving right now that you want to give a shout out to?
Let's see. Oh God, there's so many, and I love so many.
I know, it's hard.
Okay. I'm getting all of my skincare right now from Heart Grown Wild.
Okay.
And I don't know if you see this right now, but like I really struggle with my skin. Like it's been a nightmare for most of my life, and I'm not struggling.
Wow.
And so I'm 34, and for the first time in my life, I have a good relationship with my skin. And I think that's 90% due to the products that I'm using from Heart Grown Wild.
Heart Grown Wild?
Heart Grown Wild.
Cool.
So
everyone Google it.
I'm going to put her at the top. I already shouted out Cards by Cato. Support her this holiday season. And I feel like I want to throw a third in here.
Okay.
We'll give you Maverick.
Oh, yeah. I'll give you the cash later. So thank you. Well, yeah, all amazing businesses. I know the list could go on and on.
I know, it's like
maybe if you tell me a few after, then maybe in the bio.
I'll put 50 in the show notes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, again, thank you. It's been really amazing.
It's always fun talking to you.
Yeah, it's amazing to see what you're doing, and I know we're all excited to see you just keep growing, and you'll come back next year, and hopefully there'll just be so many incredible updates. And the secret that you're keeping from us.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully
I forgot about the secret already.
Yeah. Well, great. Any audience questions, or can we wrap it up?
ability to let go and be agile, as you say, with your decision making. And I'm wondering, because also in business there's a lot of goal setting, and I'm wondering how you manage to put distance between, you know, like getting too fixed on a goal and, you know, basically taking it seriously but not taking it too seriously.
Yeah. No, that's a killer question. And because I'm big on goal setting. Like I have specific numbers for like all our channels that I'm like, this is what I want to hit this year. And, you know, I do projections at the end of the year, and I think, how much are we going to grow and how much do we want to grow? And generally, like when it comes to that, I think that comes back to, or not back to, because we haven't talked about this, but I was thinking about it earlier. So it goes back to before we started recording this. Back to something none of you were privy to. It goes to kind of the way I've started defining success, because I recognize that results are largely out of my control. And so I will like set a goal and then create a plan for how I think we're going to achieve that goal. And then for me, I at that point kind of release the goal because I have the plan to get there. And at that point, success for me becomes, I did what I said I was going to do. And so the goal is there. In my mind, like with all the information that I have set us up to meet that goal or exceed it. But at the end of the day, like I can't control results. I can just control my own actions. And so I think that's kind of where the distance comes in. It's like, all right, it's there. I know it's there. I know I'm gunning for it. I know I've set us up to do it. Now we just have to do it. And if we do it, if we like do all the things, then that's the win. And I think that creates like a natural distance and usually ends up getting us to the goal. So I do think like releasing from the results is really important. Great question.
Well, cool. Well, any other questions? No? Okay. Well, I think that's a great place to wrap up. And yeah, go buy all the marshmallows you possibly can this holiday season at all your local retailers. So thanks again.
Thank you. It was really fun.